Welcome to Balanced Life with Debbie Carlin Boyle. Conversations connecting to a healthier you. The show that gives you all the latest and greatest health and wellness information to inspire you to live a life of balance and joy. Debbie Carlin Boyle is a health and nutrition coach, personal trainer, and fitness instructor who helps her clients live in balance with everything that feeds us, in addition to the food on our plate. Please welcome your host, Debbie Carlin Boyle.
Hello, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome, my friends. Welcome, everybody. Here, our audience, they're here. They're just secret. They're just kind of in the walls. Thank you for joining me today. It's Tuesday. It's February 14th. We are here live. If you're joining us live, it's Valentine's Day. So happy Valentine's Day to all of you. I hope you're enjoying your day with your loved ones and your evening. For those of you that are in the evening already, I hope that you're having a fabulous, beautiful day that you and your loved ones deserve. So I want to thank you for joining me. You're here with me, my show, which is Balanced Life with me, your host, Debbie Carlin Boyle. I'm conversations that connect to a healthier you. Have a good conversation for you today. This one plays into all of our lives, our body image, and how we sort of are in a tug of war with our own selves when it comes to our bodies and what we need to do to kind of get into the right mindset. So stick around because I have a great expert about that, and we're going to have a great conversation. And you can join that conversation if you like. It's to call in. You can call in at 323-524-2599. I'm going to say it again a little slower. I realized I erased it. Area code 323-524-2599. At any point, come in, ask a question, make a comment. We know you're thinking, if you're watching the show, we know you've got a comment, at least. If you have a question for myself or my guests, we'd love to hear it. If you're listening after the fact and you can't call in live, on my Facebook page where I am streaming live right now, you can make a comment or ask a question under there, and myself or my guests will get back to you at any time after the show. And if you're watching on my YouTube channel, same exact thing. I get comments or questions sometimes 3-4 years later after a show is run. So it just matters, what happens when you hit hashtag or something and where that takes you. So when you're doing a Google search, you may come across a show and you want to get involved. This is a conversation that continues on and on. So I also want to tell you a little bit about me and what I do. So like the intro said, that I am a health and nutrition coach, a personal trainer, and a fitness instructor. And just like we're going to talk about today, there's many things that come together besides the food on our plate that have to be balanced in order for us to have a life of longevity with quality. Because as you all know, if you listen to my show, that's what I'm all about, is that we live a long, healthy life. And there are things that we have to do or incorporate or new habits that we have to gain in order for that to happen. And I individually work with people to help them do that. I also work with groups. I also have programs. I also do talks. And as you can see, if you're watching, up on the screen right now is all the physical stuff I do. So I teach classes that you can actually take virtually with me. I am a spin or a cycle teacher. And if you go to turbofit.com, download the app, you can take once or twice a week a spin class with me live, or they're all archived. You can take any one of my classes at any time if you have a bike at home. So I invite you to do that as well. I also do Zoom sessions, group Zoom and individual Zoom sessions of fitness classes and one-on-one personal training. So reach out to me by going to my website, which was just up on the screen, but it's Balanced Life by Debbie, DEBI.com. And if you go there, you're going to find a pop-up right away. And it is a 3-day detox for you with all the recipes for 3 days right here for the winter that is going to help you kind of jumpstart, it's a little kickoff to feeling better, kind of getting yourself back on track. But these are delicious recipes. These are foods that are going to satiate you, that are good for you, and kind of give you a good, like I said, start to any other kind of lifestyle change you want to make. And get in touch with me while you're there on my website. I would love to connect with you. So, having said that, let's get to our show today, because once again, I think you're really going to relate to the show and like the content. So, what does it mean to have food freedom? And how can you stop having a tug of war with your body? My guest today is wellness coach and intuitive eating expert Lisa Dahl, who will answer this very question for us today. Lisa is a certified health and wellness coach specializing in intuitive eating, mindful eating, and body image. Her hallmark emphasis on mindfulness and self-compassion helps people find a successful pathway to whole body wellness. With compassion and expertise, she supports her clients as they discover body peace and food freedom on their journey to break free from dieting and diet culture. Her clients achieve a higher level of well-being as Lisa guides them through visioning, goal setting, and accountability. Lisa has certifications in intuitive eating, mindful eating, health and wellness coaching, and personal training as well. She is a skilled group facilitator with credentials from the Body Positive and Gratefulness.org and is presently preparing for the National Board Certification for Health and Wellness Coaches. I'm so excited. Will you please welcome my guest, Lisa Dahl, to the show today? And there's our audience, Lisa.
Hi,
welcome.
Nice. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me on this holiday. You're back east, and so it's your evening, so thank you for taking time out on Valentine's Day to be my
pleasure.
guest. I really appreciate it. I'm so glad I connected with you because there's a lot of things that you do that I realize come up a lot with my clients. And I feel like I need an expert sometimes to unravel, to help them understand their relationship with food and body image. And like I said, having sort of like being war with your body, playing tug of war with your body, the ups and downs and the yo-yo dieting and all of that. I sometimes, need coaching on how to navigate that with them. And you kind of have the pinpoint for that. But before we get into any of it, we're going to go back. I want to hear about, where you grew up, what your passions were when you were younger, and how you segued, what brought you to today doing what you do. I want to hear your story, basically, for the audience to get to know you a little bit.
So I grew up in New Jersey, and I spent a lot of time on my own. I had a few friends, a few girlfriends that I was very close to, but never really felt connected to a lot of people. I spent, once I hit middle school and high school, I spent a lot of time babysitting, working. I waitressed, I worked in a bakery, always surrounding myself with food with a lot of limitations. And
what do you mean by limitations? Meaning
limitations that it was always easier to give everybody food because food is joy and pleasurable, but being uncomfortable in my own body.
Okay.
I never realized until, 40 years later that was part of my way of not having to eat at all. That It was always fraught with friction that, it smells delicious and it's amazing and you should have it.
So the limitations you put on yourself, on your
Absolutely.
own limitations. What caused that? What from your early childhood caused that?
I'm going to say there's a few things that always come to mind. And I am not much young. I'm probably 5-6 years younger than you are. So we probably grew up in a similar generation where we grew up with Weight Watchers, Snackwells, and the Miss America pageant, where the world was tall and thin. I have tall parents. My mom is 5'10". My dad is 6 foot. My brother is 6'2". And at 5'4.5", I'm not short, but I'm not exactly tall. And my mantra was always, oh, if I could just be a little bit taller, then I could eat whatever I want.
I'm with you. Totally with you. I'm 5'4". All I wanted to be was a supermodel with the long, skinny legs and the long torso, because then you thought you could eat whatever you want. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I'm with you 100%. 100%. And unfortunately, I don't think a lot has changed.
And I have to say that I was fortunate that my dieting and my relationship with food was not related to my parents. That I had a mom who was, 5'10", naturally thin. She's not somebody who dieted at that age. It was my perception. And it was my perception when I would be in high school. And I remember specifically on a day that we were told ahead of time that we're going to be weighed and measured at school. And I remember purposely not eating, skipping breakfast, standing in line, sweating, thinking that they're going to say this horrible number in front of all of these girls who all appeared to be in thinner, better bodies than my own. So it was probably from the time I was 13, 14, I started Weight Watchers and continued to be, a avid Weight Watcher member for 40 plus years. And
can I ask you about that? Did that probably put you into a numbers game and put you in a? I'm not going to diss Weight Watchers for sure. I do not endorse it though, with my clients at least. Because I think it puts you into this mindset, which we're going to talk about the healthy mindset. I think it puts you into an unhealthy one when you're obsessed with numbers, whether it be on the scale or calories or macros or whatever it may be. That becomes, it's not sustainable, but it only in an obsessive way. And that's a problem, I think, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It disconnects you from your body. You learn to eat by numbers. You learn to eat by calories. You have no understanding of what hunger feels like, what fullness feels like, what satisfaction feels like. You eat according to a time of day. You're just totally disconnected. Your heart, your mind, your body, your food, it's in different compartments that have nothing to do with your actual desires of what is going to nurture and nourish you. So yes, I am 100% non-diet, no rule health and wellness coach is probably the best way. I mean, I specialize in the practice of intuitive and mindful eating, which is all about connecting your mind, your body, your heart, and your food so that you can learn to connect, understand why you're eating, understand how to create satisfaction, and to look at yourself as a whole person and not just bits and pieces.
I love that. Yeah, because 13 is such a pivotal age to start playing that numbers game. So that becomes, so you probably had body dysmorphia. You probably felt less than, which teenage girls do anyways. And I know we're going to get into this a little bit later, but also, I mean, with social media out there now and all this, all this manipulation that you can do with videos and photos and what girls think they should be. And I'm not sure, you probably know, but the statistic came out in the last 2 days, in the last 48 hours, about the percentage. I think it's 3 out of 5 teenage girls are depressed. And what's causing the depression has a lot to do with being bullied because they may not look like, the popular girls or whatever. And so a lot of body dysmorphia and what they want to be and think they can never be, that kind of thing in terms of their physical selves. And it has not gotten better, unfortunately. So people like you are needed, really.
It's gotten worse, where there is a study, and I don't recall the exact percentage, but it was about 6-year-old little girls and their fear of being fat. The percentage was over 50%.
That's ridiculous.
That's what 6-year-old little girls are worrying about.
I know.
Not about who they're going to go play with, not about, their favorite doll. They're worrying about a number on the scale. And we learn that from society. We're not born hating our bodies. We're not born disconnected. We live in a world that sadly can be very unkind.
I know. It just nurtures that, the way you look and the way you present yourself, being what's your jewelry, where's your status is based on, designer wear. And
it's privilege.
And it's really, and that's what's putting our teenage, and I think about it because I have a granddaughter who is going to work her way up. I sure hope things change by the time she hits puberty, and that there is a more collective love around friendship than there is, and it's more about your friends and what they give to you and not about what they look like and what the status is. Because I imagine there was a turning point for you when you were 13. You probably felt left out. Is that correct?
I was always left. Absolutely. When I was in elementary school, I was told that I needed to go to special gym because I couldn't walk on the balance beam, which set me apart where, I didn't want to go to gym to begin with. And now I was told why I don't want to go to gym. And I never wanted to participate in team sports. I never believed that I could be athletic. You create all these stories that are really not true. And, today I can't say that I am a competitive athlete because that's not true, but I hike regularly. I have hiked Mount Washington. We bike. I am physically active because it brings me joy, not because I have a specific way of doing something. It was a feat to become a personal trainer that I was able to do that considering my story and my lack of interest in sports. But when we look at being fit or healthy, it's learning to understand what brings you joy. And through my path through fitness, I have learned the difference between working out, doing things to shrink my body versus doing things and activities that make me happy and bring me joy.
Yeah, and in turn, you get the benefits of the longevity with quality, what I was saying earlier. What was your turning point when you were younger that got you out of the tailspin that you were in of the cycle of body dysmorphia or, overeating or your bad relationship with food? What turned the tide for you?
Well, what started my healing journey only happened probably 5-6 years ago when I shifted into health and wellness. I thought I was going to be the best weight loss coach because I could starve myself, restrict, do all those things. And, when I broke my diet, I could rein myself back in. Like I was on that typical roller coaster, no different than anybody else. And what I learned as I was starting to work with my clients, and it would be, share your progress day. And they would, meant tell me how much weight you either gained or lost. And the conversation would be so positive. All the things that they were doing that was making them feel better was all of a sudden down the drain when we started to talk about a number on the scale. And then I started to look at my own relationship, and I wasn't any different. If I was in my quote unquote sweet spot, I could weigh myself multiple times a day to make sure I didn't gain an ounce. And if I went over that ounce, I would absolutely not get on a scale until I could rein it back in. And I discovered through just continuing education, I came across the community of health at every size, which changed my entire thought process about what a healthy body is, that a thinner body is not a better body, that a thinner body is not a healthier body. Mm-hmm. And then I learned about the practice of intuitive eating. And I spent the last few years really shifting my relationship with food and supporting my clients in a non-diet approach to health and wellness. I will absolutely never support another human being to be able to lose weight. That option is off the table. I was very close to, I had severe patterns of disordered eating and probably pretty close to an eating disorder for a while.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the shift and what intuitive eating is. Let's get the definition so the audience, the listeners and watchers can understand what that is, and then we'll break it down if you could.
Absolutely. So intuitive eating connects instinct, emotion, and rational thought. It is the antithesis of a diet. There are no rules. It is based on principles. We are all born intuitive eaters. So for those of you that have babies or caregivers, and you are responsible for feeding, the baby will start to suck their fingers or they'll smack their lips, and they will let you know that they're hungry. And if we don't pay attention to them, they start to cry. That's their natural instinct. As a mom or a caregiver, we will either bottle feed them or nurse them. And then the baby knows when they've had enough to, push away or shut their mouth. And then as the mom or the caregiver, we will often want to, top them off or make sure that they're fed, making sure that they're well fed and nourished and they haven't slept well. Maybe they need a little bit more. And we start to teach that baby not to trust their natural instincts. So with the practice of intuitive eating, what we're doing is that we are working with people to help them come back to their natural instincts, to be able to honor their hunger and their fullness. And this is not to be confused with the hunger fullness diet. It is about connecting with what those feelings are. So the principles are about rejecting diet culture, understanding where those stories came from. Why do you dislike your body? What images are you seeing? Who is telling you that information? Starting to ask that question, moving from judgment to curiosity. Is that information really true? Is that information serving you? Honoring your hunger, learning thinking about a hunger scale where 0 is starving and 10 is you are over full. Learning what those nuances look and feel like. Third principle is about giving yourself permission to eat. And this is one of the most important principles because we, as dieters, we restrict, and we think that staying on a diet is going to keep us in safety. And then when we break our diet, the first thing we say, well, I'm so out of control. How do we shift with the practice of intuitive eating? We shift that thought so that when you learn that you can listen, trust, and respect your body, and that you are not overfeeding yourself because you're starving, with permission, it changes your relationship. And being off of your diet, you don't feel that insecure, I'm out of control feeling. So it's important to understand when we say that we're out of control, where is that control coming from? And that we can reshift our thoughts and focus. Challenging the food police. I know many of us have those voices in our head, don't eat this, don't eat that, or, I'm going to skip breakfast so that I can eat lunch. I'm going to, eat this chocolate bar, but then I'm going to go run X miles. For me, that was a big deal. I could go up and down the supermarket aisles and I would look at labels. I wouldn't look at food. I could do that going back to Weight Watchers. I could do calorie math and know instantly if I was going to buy a food or not, just based on its nutritional content, on how many grams of fat, how many grams of fiber, how many points was that going to be? So learning how to let that information go and focus on how does that food feel in your body. Satisfaction. When we're dieting, nobody talks about satisfaction. And satisfaction is not just about the meal. Satisfaction is what's going on with your emotions. How do you, who are you with? What is your environment? Are you in a safe space? Are you with people that you enjoy? Learning to understand how to get the most satisfaction out of each meal. And there is no way that every meal is going to be satisfying. That's just not going to happen. And accepting that, knowing though what will create greater satisfaction. Understanding your fullness, understanding what it feels like to be comfortably full or over full, and using words that, is it a pleasant experience, an unpleasant experience, or is it a neutral experience, so that we get rid of the labels of that good or bad. Learning to respect your body. And that's a big one, being able to offer yourself self-care, self-compassion. Movement for the joy of moving versus focusing on shrinking your body. And nutrition actually comes last. And that is because as dieters, we really can easily flip back into that diet mentality of this is good, this is bad. Food has no moral value. We go back to learning how to connect these foods and how they feel in our bodies. What food makes me feel good might be really might be dangerous for you. Like, I love nuts. If you have a nut allergy, nuts aren't good for you. Learning to understand your relationship with food is the keys to being free of that diet mentality.
But there's also, so food doesn't have any moral values, but it does have nutrition values. And not to put number, again, I don't do a numbers game, but I do work with delicious nutrition, letting clients know that because the one thing that I find with my clients around food is deprivation or missing out on, the whole FOMO thing. Oh, right. All my friends are doing this, fear of missing out, and that they're going almost back to their childhood again, and now they're fitting out because they're eating healthy, nutritious food while everybody else is eating nachos and fries and things that are all yellow foods, basically, that are not fruits or vegetables. So there is I think there's a fine line there in trying to in helping them make the healthy, nutritious choices. And so that's why I want to talk about how you implement all those things that you just mentioned with your clients and your groups that you work with. So they grab on to that, but they do it in a sustainable, healthy way. Because that's tricky to me. We can talk about this all we want, but to actually grab on and hold on for a lifetime and making those kind of choices and finding joy in everything we do that's healthy for us, how do you implement that for them?
So, and that's a great question. What happens is that when you have permission to eat food, it changes your relationship so that, let's say that you are somebody who restricts, and I use M&Ms just as a very simplistic example. When you are learning to have permission to eat food, the process is to create something called habituation, where it's no longer this anomaly, this special thing, that it's normalized. And the practice starts with, if you love M&Ms, to buy bags of M&Ms, pounds of M&Ms, keep them in your house. When you are present, we're talking about like mindful eating practices, noticing your hunger and fullness. So like when you are learning to have permission to eat these foods, you're not starving, you're not overfull, and you are mindfully eating these. And the first few days, you might eat a pound of M&Ms. It's also noticing how you feel at that moment of time and knowing that you can stop because you're going to have more tomorrow, that it's not one of those, the Last Supper, I have to eat every one because I'm not going to see it and I'm going to go into restriction. And you begin to learn through this process that, okay, if I have 5 M&Ms or 10 M&Ms, it's no big deal. I can eat them. It doesn't really matter. When I start to get into a handful, I start to get that overly sweet sugar feeling in my mouth and it doesn't feel good. Or perhaps my head starts to spin from the sugar rush. Whatever it could be, you start to notice how you feel. And when you have that permission, it's not that you have to eat that entire bag. You can have the amount that you like that feels good in your body. And it doesn't feel like restriction and deprivation any longer.
Do you have your clients do journals so they can kind of keep track on, because you're talking about how they feel after they eat it, whether they feel good or whether they've, got this sugar rush. Do you have them journal so they can go back and see the progress that they've made, or how do they?
It depends on who the client is. Because when I'm working with them, I'm coaching them. Often we're meeting week by week. Some people really love to journal. I really, and also depending on what their food history is, because if they were somebody like me who wrote down everything that they ate, I don't want them to get back into that habit. So it all is very individually based on what their experience is. And if they do journal, it's more about not how much they ate. It is about how do they feel during that eating experience.
That's what I meant, that kind of journal, a feeling journal, not about, today I ate 3 walnuts. No,
right.
but
exactly.
But
Been there.
So that I know, right, and that is for me with my clients is a don't do, but to have some kind of measure of progress, to just write down their feelings and how they felt terrible because they ate the pound in the beginning of the program, but towards the end of, I think you do 6-month programs. I do too. And the end of the 6 months, seeing, now I can eat 3 M&Ms at the end of the day, and I'm happy.
And what happens is that, it's a lot of information. We're talking about undoing 40, often 40 plus, 50 plus years of this history.
It's habits.
And it takes time, patience, practice, and self-compassion. I had one client who I've been working with for several years, and she is in my mindful eating program. And she shared last night, she said, I've known all this stuff and I've been working on it for several years. And this past few weeks, I'm seeing like pop rocks. Like I was offered chips and I thought to myself, I really am not in the mood for them. It's not what I want. It's not going to make me feel good. So it is not a quick fix.
No, habits are hard to change.
I will never tell anybody that, you're not broken. You don't need to be fixed, that this is a healing journey. And that part of the practice is offering yourself the compassion that it does take time and that you're not going to get it right 100% of the time. As much as I do this, I still don't get it right 100% of the time.
Nobody does. There's no way. Yeah.
And I don't punish myself anymore. I don't wake up in the morning and think, I did this, but the I did this doesn't really happen that much anymore.
Yes, because you've changed your habits over a period of time from unhealthy ones to healthy ones, and you realize how you feel, because how you feel both physically and mentally is really where it's at. And then you get the extra added plus of, you're actually adding years to your life by eating healthier, and the cravings, you're crowding out the cravings. You're crowding out good stuff and getting rid of the bad. We're going to take a really quick break, but we're going to continue on this thread, on this conversation from my sponsor right now. And we'll be back right after this minute, and we're going to come right back. So stay with us. And again, if you want to call in or ask a question, go to my Facebook page, Balanced Life by Debbie, DEBI.com, or you can, or Facebook, or you can call in area code 323-524-2599. We know you have a question. We'll be right back. Without looking at labels, do you actually know what is in the cleaning products that you use in your home? If you haven't addressed this yet, it's likely that you are spraying toxic and dangerous chemicals in your home. 3 common ingredients that you want to avoid at all costs are ammonia, fragrance, and bleach. These ingredients and chemicals can contribute to chronic respiratory problems, allergic reactions, allergies, cancer, hormonal issues, headaches, and more. So what's the solution to a healthier, clean home for your family? Teas Organics all-purpose cleaner and room sprays. Teas products are formulated with the power of an essential oil blend. Her all-purpose cleaner gives you a clean surface, shower, toilet, or simply just use it to spot clean or dust, and all without harsh chemicals. And to make it even better, Teas Organics all-purpose cleaner uses 100% organic essential oils and has a sweet yet spicy herbal aroma with hints of citrus. Imagine a fresh, inviting scent and sparkling clean home that you know is free from toxic, potentially harmful, and cancer-causing chemicals. I use these products, and I can personally attest to all of the above. And right now, enjoy a 15% discount by applying 15DEBBI, DEBI, to your order. So check out these amazing products by Teas Organics that are healthy for you and your home. Welcome back. My guest today is Lisa Dahl, and she is an expert on intuitive eating, body image, and works with, I think you work mostly with women. I wonder if we could talk a little bit about when you come across in your program people that have bad body image or people that are binge eating or food eating disorders and stuff. How do you navigate that and work with those kind of people?
So I work with women who have disordered eating patterns and not eating disorders, because that is very different. Oh. And we spend, because that's not what I'm qualified to do. So if you have disordered eating, I am your go-to person. Eating disorders, I highly recommend you seeing a registered dietitian who specializes in the practice of eating disorders. We spend a lot of time unpacking our stories, understanding where our thoughts come from. You know, body image is based on our perceptions, on how we see our bodies. And that goes into our affective body image, on how we are feeling about our bodies. And then that leads into our thoughts. What are we thinking about our bodies? And that leads into our actions. You know, how are we behaving as a result of that sequence? So we spend a lot of time, unpacking those stories, thinking about the truths, focusing on actions and behaviors so that you start to connect with how you are feeling, and we start to distance ourselves from how we are looking and our opinion of that. And it also helps, what are you looking at? What is your social media? We talked about that earlier in the show. What are you seeing? What are you surrounding ourselves? We've all curated our feeds to perhaps see, the before and after pictures and the quick fixes and the diets. When we start to shift our thinking and our thoughts and seeing things that are different, that's when the magic starts to happen. Learning how to be able to connect, create different thoughts about what you are, when you see your body and you are hating your body, how do we create that next thought that is believable? It's not going from body hate to I love my body. It could be as simplistic as I am practicing to learn to accept my body. So a lot of it is about creating new thoughts, seeing who is surrounding you, being in community, knowing that you are not alone, understanding compassion, noticing, when you are in a room, noticing, what that self-esteem looks like. I don't worry about my clients with self-esteem. I worry about them whether they have self-compassion, because on a quote unquote good body day, they will go into a room and their self-esteem is going to be way up high. On a day when they are struggling and they see somebody's body that they perceive to be better than their own, they are, we need to scrape them off the floor. Mm. How do we shift and focus on our actions and our behaviors? And there's some wonderful books out there that I recommend to my clients to start to read, to be able to open their eyes that their self-worth is not tied up in their body, and that our weight is the least interesting thing about all of us.
So true. So hard to implement. I have an excellent relationship with food, and I didn't when I was younger. I called myself a processed kid because, unlike you, I grew up with a family that just ate junk food. There were 4 kids and food was thrown around, fast, however we could get it to us. I mean, there were Sundays, weekends, special occasions where really healthy food came out. But for the most part, everything was either too many chemicals, deep fried, flour, sugar, it just, so I didn't understand that I had a bad relationship with food. I only did what was thrown, I ate what was thrown at me. But when I took control, when I went away to college, because I realized and I used to, like you worked in a bakery, I worked at 31 Flavors, an ice cream store. So
I did ice cream too.
Did you? Yeah, and you get all the free ice cream you want. And when for me, I was 16, as skinny as could be, had the quote unquote, what I thought at the time, the perfect teenage body. And I gained 20 pounds in that year. So when I left there to go to college, before I went to college, the summer before, I said, that's it. that something's got to change. Because for me, it was strictly about, in my head, I'm not going to get or attract the kind of guy I like when I'm in college, the guy I want to like me if I'm 20 pounds overweight. So I, immediately got healthy. I became a vegetarian, started eating on salad bars. And so for a long time, I changed my old bad eating habits to good, healthy ones, but it took time. It was over, a period of years to a point where it just became my lifestyle. So I have a really excellent relationship with food, but body image is still out there. I look at people who are my age, 65 years old, 64, 65, in that range, that are supermodels still to this day, and think, I wish I had that body. I know I work harder than them. I know I'm more alert about and more, conscientious about how I take care of myself and my whole lifestyle. But I will never have that genetic body image. And so that to me is the hardest thing to get rid of sometimes, is the stuff that's being thrown at us in, there's so much content out there now with Netflix and all the streaming services and all our Instagrams and platforms like that are throwing so much out at us that we think we're here, and then we get knocked down to there, and then we have to kind of work our way back up again. It's that confidence, it's that positivity that we have to keep, to know that yes, you can, and yes, you are enough just the way you are. And I work on that every single day.
It's, when I work with my clients, we don't talk about numbers. We don't talk about calories. We don't talk about points. We don't talk about a number on the scale. And we really refocus, because our bodies, you can't, think about it as a shoe size. You cannot change your size 8 shoe size. What makes us think that we can change our bodies? The only thing that we can change is our actions and our behaviors on how we feel. And it's really one of those, it's one of the strongest things that I work with my clients about, is that, your genetics, what was your financial, what is your food insecurity? What is your stress level? What are your finances? All of those things come out in our lifestyle choices. There is a direct impact on how you can make one choice, and it will either positively or negatively affect all the other different aspects of health.
Absolutely. Lisa, we have a phone call.
Ooh.
So let's see what we've got. Hi, caller. Are you there?
Direct impact on how you can make
one
choice.
Hi. You know what? We need you to. Can you turn down whatever you're?
I'm going to.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
We're getting feedback.
Yep. I know. I've been listening on my iPad. Hold on. But your music was overshooting the rest of it, so I didn't want to miss it.
Oh, good. Okay, well, I'm so glad you called in. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, my name is Robin Height, and I live in West Palm Beach, Florida.
Hi, Robin. Thank you for joining us today. Do you have a question or a comment for myself or my guests today about what we're talking about?
I do. I just want you to know I'm really enjoying this conversation. I've learned a lot today. And I guess my question is, we all have control over our own work that we're doing, but we don't have control about the outside noise. And lots of people, including my mom that are close to me, tend to try to sabotage my emotions and feelings. And how do you approach in a gentle way what that's doing to you, and how you can still not lose your motivation or self-confidence?
That's a great question, and good timing too. Lisa, I'm going to let you take this one. I have answers too, but I want you to hear from you.
Yeah. So it's, how do you protect yourself? And it's learning to set boundaries. And setting boundaries can be hard. Sometimes they feel harsh. And it's understanding that you need to be able to protect yourself. and to be able to kind of say, you know what, this is not helping me. And it's especially when it's our moms, we don't want to be hurtful. And we also have to learn how to protect ourselves and to have the confidence to be able to set those boundaries of safety and getting confident, practicing. What do those words sound like? Even looking in the mirror and kind of saying, Mom, this is not your space any longer, or I'm working hard to be able to do the things that I'm doing, whatever it is that you don't want her to have an input on, to be able to practice in your own time and space, to be able to get those words out, because they are hard. And, especially if you have a close, loving relationship with your parents or your mom, it feels that you are, distancing yourself. And what you're doing is that you're creating safety, and you have to be your best advocate. You are the only one who can protect you. So it's learning to understand what those words can sound like, practicing them, and finding the right time and space to say them.
Because I'm sure that there are triggers that you're, even just a word that your mom could say that could take you down. And really, it's your journey, and and yes, it's so much easier when you have the support of those around you, when you're making these sustainable changes in your life for the better. Sometimes you have to understand too that it's about them more than it's about you and their inability to maybe implement the things that are working for you in their own lives. It's not always the case, but I find that a lot of times with my clients, their kids or their siblings or their parents will make comments because they're not willing to take that road, to make the changes that they're seeing their loved one make. And
it's also their insecurity.
Yes,
it's their, it comes from their thinking of best intentions, and it's their way of their thoughts protecting you. And it gets complicated,
especially with loved ones.
And learning to set those boundaries and create safety for yourself it's hard, important. And it does work.
Yeah, and the whole, what we were talking about earlier, the whole thing about fitting in, like if you go to a happy hour with a bunch of friends and your friends aren't in sort of the same relationship with food that you are, and all of the, happy hour foods are generally 90% of the time are unhealthy foods that are around you, and everybody's just sort of mindlessly chomping down, and you want to get some hummus and a side of, cut vegetables or something, and somebody makes a comment. It's more about them knowing what they're doing. They're going to have the yucky feelings later and the repercussions, and it's more about what they're worried about for themselves than making fun of what you're doing. And that's the hard, you got to flip the script kind of, and it's the hard thing. So fitting out isn't so bad. And I tell my clients to actually embrace that rather than trying to fit in. And, I've had people say to me, well, I feel so left out if I'm not eating the chips and the guacamole and all the stuff and I said, but you can still be part of the conversation. You can still be part of the group and the scene without indulging in what's making them feel bad, might make them feel bad later. It's a tough one. This is tough, but you sound like you're very intuitive you're very in tune with yourself in terms of how you handle situations. So that's going to help.
I appreciate that. Thank you both. I really, I moved to Florida to be near my mom, and it's kind of a love challenge relationship because I get to see her every day, and all she does is comment on my body. It doesn't matter if it's my weight or what I'm wearing or the cut on my nose that I got the other day. It's just something every day. And, I just smile and kind of ignore her because that's the safest place I can go. But I made the mistake recently of telling her that I've cut out carbs and sugar because it's helping my inflammation on my rheumatoid arthritis.
Big time.
And she said, Robin, how's the diet going? I said, Mom, let's just skip this conversation. It's really not a diet. It's just a choice to make me feel better. But, you know, every day she's like, how's it going? How you feeling? Did you lose weight? And, you know, it gets old. So thank you both. I
feel for you, Robin. That's a typical thing that a loved one will say, you know, and it's part of their, like you said, it's hard. You can't really have that conversation with her because she doesn't understand how you are implementing this permanent change in your life for the better. I mean, sugar and starchy processed foods are a high source of inflammation in our bodies. And yes, you're right. It's going to really help your arthritis to cut out sugar. And that's basically, you can just say it's helping my arthritis and in the conversation. So, because if she wants to understand, she'll educate herself. But you know, you're doing all the right things. Good for you for doing that and cutting that out. That's not easy. Those are cravings that are hard to undo. So I really, really admire you. And go ahead.
Thanks. No, I was just going to say I've been doing it a few weeks now, and I'm enjoying not having pain. So it's kind of it's worth it. I don't feel like I'm missing anything. I feel like I'm getting creative. I had cauliflower pizza last night and loved it.
See? So. That's how you can start trying new things. I do that with my clients all the time, and they're like, whoa, who knew? You know, so experiment and just enjoy some deliciousness and healthy food. So thank you, Robin, for calling in. I hope you have a beautiful evening. Thank you so much. Take care.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye. Oh, lovely. That's lovely. So, and that's a great, she had, I think, a great question, because I think that's one of the most difficult things is you may have your boundaries and understand how to navigate for yourself. But if your loved ones that surround you, I got a hard time from my kids early on when I got on the health journey, you know, when I started my sports and my competitive athletics and eating healthy, and and basically it was more about them than it was about me. And it took me a while to understand that. So it's a tough one. It's a real tough one. So
keeping yourself in safety.
We have to wind down, but I want to get in all the stuff that we didn't get to. Kind of, you know, it's a big discussion. So maybe we can just end with some, a couple things. One, some strategies, if you could give for people that are listening that can just sort of start this intuitive eating on their own right away. And then we'll talk about how people can get in touch with you, and then we'll have a final word. How's that?
In terms of strategy, awareness is going to be your awareness and curiosity are the two things that I always start to work on with my clients. Awareness of your hunger, awareness of your fullness, awareness of your emotions, awareness of, are you present or are you on automatic pilot? Viewing yourself with curiosity and putting the judgment behind, so that you start to understand the connections between your mind, your body, your heart, and your food. So I would say start to practice noticing and being present.
Fantastic. And if people need your help to do that, how do they reach you?
The best way you can find me is to go to my website, www.lisadahlwellness.com. It's lisadahlwellness.com, and you can find me on Facebook and Instagram, as well as my growing YouTube channel.
Fabulous. And now I want to thank you, but I also want some final words of wisdom. It can be a phrase or a word, anything that you want to leave the audience with today.
Life is messy and magical, and it's filled with disappointment and discovery. So it is a journey and an adventure, and that we all have ups and downs, and to always to have hope that there's a better future ahead.
That's so lovely. Thank you so much. And thank you for taking time out of this, again, holiday and this evening of yours. I hope you get to go enjoy it with your significant other. And hang on right there, because I want to say thank you, too, to my audience for joining me today. And I want you to keep going out. If you want the conversation to keep going, go to my Facebook page, make a comment, ask a question. I'd still love to hear from you. So would Lisa. But in the meantime, keep going out and having those conversations that connect to a healthier you. Bye, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye.